What if the reason you're tired, foggy, and running to the bathroom all day isn't that you're drinking too little water, but that plain water physically cannot hydrate your cells without minerals? That's not a theory. That's basic cell biology, and it explains everything. We're going to break down where the 8 glasses rule actually came from, what too much plain water does to your kidneys and your blood, why your cells cannot absorb water without minerals, and what you should drink instead. By the end, the way you think about hydration is going to be completely different. Let's go back to 1945. The U.S. Food and Nutrition Board published a document called Recommended Dietary Allowances. It recommended 1 milliliter of fluid per calorie of energy consumed. For an average adult, that works out to around 2 liters a day. Someone did the maths, rounded it up, called it 8 glasses, and dropped the most important part, that it included all fluid from food and drink, not glasses of plain water alone. That single omission created a rule that has survived 80 years without scientific foundation. In 2002, Dr. Heinz Valton published a paper in the American Journal of Physiology, specifically searching for scientific evidence behind the 8 glasses rule. He found none. 0 peer-reviewed evidence that healthy adults need 8 glasses of plain water on top of everything else they consume. In 2007, Dr. Aaron Carroll confirmed the same finding in the British Medical Journal. And then it gets worse. 2 studies made international headlines declaring that 2/3 of children were chronically dehydrated. The first, funded by Nestlé Waters France, declared that 62% of French children aged 9 to 11 were dehydrated. The second, also funded by Nestlé subsidiaries, said the same about children in Los Angeles. Both used a urine concentration threshold that most clinicians do not consider abnormal. It is worth knowing who funds the research telling you that you are not drinking enough. The 8 glasses rule isn't medicine. It never was. The problem isn't just that the 8 glasses rule has no evidence behind it. The problem is that for a lot of people, following it could be actively causing harm. Your kidneys are remarkably efficient organs, but efficiency has a cost. They can process roughly 0.8 to 1 liter of water per hour. When you consistently drink beyond what your body signals through thirst, you force your kidneys to work continuously, filtering and expelling water your body never needed. For most healthy people, this does not permanently damage the kidneys. But it does put them under prolonged strain. And every time they process that excess water, minerals leave with it. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, the electrolytes your cells depend on to function. So the real consequence of chronic overhydration in a healthy person is not kidney failure. It is a slow, quiet depletion of the minerals that power every cell in your body. You are not breaking your kidneys. You are emptying your mineral reserves 1 glass at a time. One important exception. If you are prone to kidney stones, adequate water intake is genuinely protective. The issue this video addresses is not people drinking too little. It is people drinking large amounts of plain water without replacing the minerals that water carries out. This creates a condition that sounds almost impossible. You can be simultaneously overhydrated with water and deficient in the minerals that actually make hydration work. When sodium drops too low, water floods into your cells trying to compensate. The symptoms, fatigue, brain fog, headaches, are identical to what most people blame on not drinking enough water. So you feel tired. You drink more plain water. You flush more minerals. You feel more tired. You can see the trap. And you pee all day wondering why nothing is working. Here is something almost nobody mentions. It is not just what you drink, it is how you drink it. Research out of Canada found that sipping water slowly throughout the day results in 6 times less urine excretion than gulping the same amount in large glasses. When you gulp a full glass, your kidneys see a sudden flood of low mineral fluid, classify it as excess, and expel it before your cells ever see it. And every time that happens, minerals leave with it. Sip, don't gulp. Small and consistent throughout the day. Here is the most important thing in this entire video. Water does not just passively soak into your cells like a sponge. There is a specific mechanism, and without the right conditions, that mechanism does not work. Your cells are surrounded by a membrane, a selective barrier. Water passes through protein channels called aquaporins, but whether those channels open depends entirely on the mineral concentration on either side of the membrane. This is called osmotic pressure. When there is enough sodium outside your cells and potassium inside them, the difference in concentration creates a gradient, a pull, that draws water through those channels into the cell where it belongs. But when you have been drinking plain water all day without replacing minerals, that gradient weakens. There is not enough difference in concentration to drive water into your cells effectively. Your kidneys recognize the low mineral fluid, classify it as excess, and expel it. The National Institutes of Health state directly that sodium is the primary determinant of fluid movement in and out of cells. Without it, the mechanism stalls. Your cells stay underhydrated while your bladder stays busy. Water is not hydration. Water plus minerals is hydration. That is not a wellness claim. That is basic cell biology. Let's talk about what mineral deficiency actually feels like, because there's a very good chance you recognize some of this. Fatigue that doesn't make sense. You slept, you rested, but you still feel flat. That is often a sodium deficiency, affecting the sodium-potassium pump that generates energy in every single cell of your body. Headaches that appear from nowhere and disappear suspiciously fast after you eat something salty. Muscle cramps at night. Twitches during the day. Weakness in the gym despite training consistently. Irritability you cannot explain. That slow underwater brain fog in the afternoon, where concentration requires real effort. All of these are classic signs of electrolyte deficiency, not dehydration. Mineral deficiency. Research published by the European Hydration Institute confirms that hydration is not simply a matter of water volume. It is a matter of electrolyte balance. And the book The Salt Fix by cardiologist James DiNicolantonio makes a compelling case that decades of low-salt dietary guidelines have created a population running at reduced capacity every single day without knowing why. Most table salt starts as a natural source, either underground deposits or seawater. But by the time it reaches your kitchen, it has been heated to over 600 degrees Celsius, chemically treated, and deliberately stripped of its trace minerals, which are removed during processing as so-called impurities. What remains is approximately 99.5% pure sodium chloride with anti-caking agents added. It is not what your body recognizes as a complete mineral source. What we are talking about is unrefined natural salt, Himalayan pink salt from ancient deposits in Pakistan, or Celtic sea salt harvested from clay-lined ponds in France. Both retain their full spectrum of trace minerals, over 80 in the case of Himalayan salt, including the magnesium, potassium, and calcium that work alongside sodium to support cellular hydration. The difference between table salt and natural mineral salt is not marketing. It is the difference between an isolated industrial compound and a whole mineral food that the body has been working with for thousands of years. The answer is simpler and cheaper than any supplement, and the science is solid. First thing in the morning, before coffee, before food, drink a glass of warm water with a small pinch of high-quality mineral salt and the juice of half a lemon. A commonly cited guideline used across sports nutrition and hydration research is around a quarter teaspoon of mineral salt per liter of water for optimal hydration. For a single morning glass, that translates to a small pinch, enough to raise the mineral concentration of the water without significantly impacting your daily sodium intake. Start with a small pinch and adjust based on how you feel. If you eat a diet already high in processed foods, your sodium intake from food alone is likely already significant, in which case, err toward the smaller amount. If you eat a whole food diet with minimal processed food, a slightly more generous pinch is well within safe ranges for most healthy adults. The principle matters more than the precise amount. You are not trying to make the water taste salty. You are adding just enough mineral salt to shift the water's concentration closer to what your body can readily absorb. Warm rather than cold matters here. Cold water requires your body to warm it before absorption begins, which on an empty stomach creates unnecessary work. Warm water is absorbed with less effort and is gentler on the digestive tract. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic practice have recommended warm water on waking for centuries, and the Western clinical evidence points in the same direction. One important note on temperature. The WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified beverages consumed above 65 degrees Celsius as probably carcinogenic, specifically linked to esophageal cancer risk when consumed regularly over many years. You cannot measure 65 degrees with your fingers, but you can feel it in your mouth. If it is uncomfortable to sip, it is too hot. Let it cool until it feels pleasant and warm, not scalding. That is the right temperature. The salt raises the osmolality of the water. Osmolality simply means the concentration of dissolved minerals in a liquid. The closer that concentration is to your blood plasma, the more readily your body absorbs the fluid rather than expelling it. Adding mineral salt brings that glass of water much closer to what your body recognizes and uses. You are also supporting your adrenal glands, which regulate cortisol and aldosterone, the hormones behind morning energy and sodium retention. The lemon provides potassium, the mineral that works inside your cells the way sodium works outside them. Together, they create the osmotic gradient that pulls water into cells. Lemon juice is acidic in the mouth, which is why we cover the teeth caveat in a moment. But once metabolized, it leaves behind alkaline-forming minerals, including potassium and magnesium, which is why it is often described as alkaline-forming, though it does not change your blood pH, which the body regulates tightly regardless of what you consume. Add mineral salt, not table salt, to this for the full effect. Optional, a small teaspoon of raw honey. Not processed supermarket honey. Actual raw, unfiltered honey. Raw honey activates a gut transporter called the sodium-glucose cotransporter, which accelerates sodium absorption. This is the same principle behind clinical oral rehydration solutions used in hospitals. If you are diabetic or monitoring blood sugar, leave the honey out entirely. The salt and lemon are doing the heavy lifting, and there is no useful substitute that replicates the honey without glucose. One important caveat, and this one is specifically about your teeth. Lemon juice has a pH of around 2 to 3, firmly in the acidic range. Daily contact with that acidity can erode tooth enamel over time. Enamel erosion is permanent, it does not grow back. 4 simple things protect you. First, use a reusable straw. It carries the liquid past your teeth and minimizes direct contact. Second, rinse your mouth with plain water immediately after drinking. Third, do not brush your teeth for at least 30 minutes after. Acid temporarily softens enamel, and brushing too soon causes more damage than the lemon did. Fourth, drink it in one sitting rather than sipping it slowly over time. The longer your teeth are exposed to acid, the greater the erosion risk. One note for everyone. If you have high blood pressure, kidney disease, or take medication affecting sodium levels, speak to your doctor before changing your salt intake. This is education, not medical advice. The claim that water dilutes your stomach acid and ruins digestion is not accurate. Your stomach detects any change in acidity immediately and compensates. It is remarkably adaptive. But here's what does matter. When you drink large amounts of water during a meal, your stomach physically expands with the volume. That pressure pushes gastric juices back up toward the esophagus. This is why large glasses of water mid-meal can cause heartburn or reflux. This is exactly what traditional medicine observed for centuries. Islamic tradition includes a long-held teaching that water before a meal is gold, water during a meal is silver, and water after a meal is iron. Chinese traditional medicine recommended warm or hot liquids with meals for over 2,000 years. Never cold, never large volumes. Japanese practice follows the same principle, with hot green tea throughout meals. Ayurvedic medicine in India arrived at the same conclusion independently. 4 traditions, different continents, no contact with each other, same observation. Research from Virginia Tech, led by Dr. Brenda Davy, confirmed in the journal Obesity in 2010 by Elizabeth Dennis and colleagues, and further confirmed in a randomized controlled trial from the University of Birmingham published in Obesity in 2015, found that drinking around 500 milliliters of water 30 minutes before a meal reduced calorie intake by approximately 13% and supported meaningful weight loss over 12 weeks. 30 minutes before meals. That is the one timing recommendation with consistent research behind it. And here is something worth knowing about tea and coffee after meals, particularly relevant to everything covered in this video about minerals. Research shows that drinking tea within an hour of eating can reduce iron absorption by up to 62%. Coffee reduces it by around 39%. The tannins in both drinks bind directly to minerals in your food and carry them out before they can be absorbed. Waiting at least an hour after a meal before your tea or coffee is a small habit that makes a meaningful difference to how many minerals your body actually retains. Drink water around 30 minutes before meals. Sip if needed during. Wait at least an hour after, before tea or coffee. Most table salt begins as a natural source, either mined from underground rock salt deposits or evaporated from seawater. But by the time it reaches your kitchen, it has been industrially refined. The brine chemically treated to remove magnesium, calcium, and other trace minerals, which are classified during processing as unwanted impurities. What remains is 97 to 99% pure sodium chloride. Anti-caking agents are then added to keep it free-flowing. The origin is natural. The end product has been stripped of almost everything that made it nutritionally useful. Unrefined natural salt, Himalayan pink salt, or Celtic sea salt, goes through none of that stripping process. What comes out of the ground, or the harvest pond, is largely what reaches your kitchen. The minerals stay intact. That is the difference that matters. It's simple. The less processed the salt, the more useful it is. Check the label. If it has more than 1 or 2 ingredients, it has been processed beyond what you need. The advice was never drink more water. It was never avoid salt. The advice was always give your body what it needs to use the water you drink. A 1/4 teaspoon of mineral salt, a squeeze of lemon, a glass of warm filtered water first thing in the morning. It costs almost nothing, and it does more for your cellular hydration than 8 glasses of plain water ever could. The 8 glasses rule was built on a calculation that lost its context in 1945 and kept alive by research that was not always independent of commercial interest. Now you know better. If this reframed how you think about hydration, share it with someone who carries a plain water bottle and wonders why they are always tired. If you are interested in your well-being, self-development, and living your best life, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See you there!